Hello and welcome to Talk a Good Game, and it's just finished. Manchester United 1, West Ham United 1 in the first of two meetings between the two sides in the space of 4 games, as we will go back there on Wednesday night. I'm joined by Jason and Gonzo in association with our sponsors, Royal London Watches. Jason, it took 90 seconds. We've been waiting since May for a striker to do something. Set up a goal or score a goal, and it took 90 seconds at Old Trafford. What's your thoughts on that goal?
I mean, just what a beautiful ball in from Payet. I thought we were always going to be the most dangerous from our set pieces as well. And we just, with the amount of strength we have in regards to in the air, it's quite surprising that Saka, of all people, are going to be on the receiving end of it. But I'm hoping this will then sort of give him the confidence to keep rolling with us and maybe stake his claim to be this first choice striker that he feels he deserves to be. But he hasn't done his chances any harm with that. And quite relieved we finally got that unwanted record off of the only team without a striker to score.
Gonzo, you're a big fan of him. Is that what we've been missing all season?
Absolutely. I'm a fan of him for a very, very good reason. He's two vital qualities, and you can pick out lots of other qualities that you might admire in all the other strikers. But firstly, Saka knows where the goal is, even if he's not particularly looking at it. And secondly, he has that ability to find a yard of space inside the box, and he almost did it for a second time in there as well. So, yeah, we've greatly missed that. And as you know, I've thought for some time that he's the best striker at the club.
Gonzo, do you think, this is going to sound really weird, do you think we maybe scored too early in the match?
It doesn't sound weird. Doesn't sound weird at all. I know what you mean. We probably sat back because of it. I know you're dealing with a very, very small cross section of the game. So whatever it was, 90 seconds. But we started off on fire, didn't we? And as soon as we kicked off, Payet tried something straight away. He was in that sort of mood today. If you notice, he was in a mood to try something a little bit different. I don't know if it was the speculation that Mourinho might be interested in or what, but it did sort of kill that, didn't it, the goal? We did then go from that adventurous mindset into, hold on, we're 1-0 up at Old Trafford, let's try and protect it.
Jason, their goal, 22 passes they put in, but is this the danger when you're playing a big team? If you do sit back so much that they've got the quality in there with Pogba, where they're passing about, they don't look very dangerous, then bang, one over the top. Collins, well, what is Collins doing?
Staring into space by the seams of things. I think he was just looking a bit too static for his own good. I mean, this is the one thing with Collins rather. He's usually solid as a rock, but he always has a mistake in him, and 9 times out of 10 we seem to get punished for it. And we saw again, he nearly fluffed his lines with that backwards header to Randolph as well. So it's I think we just need to press a bit more, to be honest. It's always well and good sitting back and soaking up the pressure, but when you're dealing with Man United, especially at home as well, where decisions are always going to sway in their favour as well, I just don't want to see us riding by the seat of our pants, pretty much, to be honest.
Gonzo, we said last week, when you go to Spurs, you need to concentrate for 90 minutes. Switch off, you'll get punished. Did we switch off for that goal a little bit, or were we being harsh? Was it just a case of 2 world-class players doing their stuff?
Oh, no. Well, they are 2 world-class players and they were doing their stuff, but that was infinitely avoidable. I thought Collins let Ibrahimovic get the run on him. So, and he totally sold him a dummy. He looked like a bit of an amateur then, Collins. I'm sorry to say, as you know, I do like him very much, but he got the run on him. So Ibrahimovic was running one way as Collins was running the other, as it were. By the time Collins had got back, it was almost as if Collins was expecting Randolph then to do something. And then Randolph, who was excellent today, of course, was almost expecting Collins to do something. And I've only watched it, whatever, as it happened in a 2 or 3. But my feeling, and I don't know, I think with some analysis you might look, my feeling was, could Randolph have done something there? He just seemed to sort of stand like that, but I think he was surprised that Collins let Ibrahimovic get in as easily as he did.
I think the problem with Randolph is if Ibrahimovic doesn't touch it, it's going in. It's one of those, it's like those free kicks that come from deep to the far post. If anyone touches it, it's in. But if no one touches it, it's in as well. And as a keeper, it must be an absolute nightmare. You just don't know what to do. And I think that's the case there. I think you've got to give credit to Pogba, world-class pass. That pass, I mean, they were passing about. One run from their striker, bang, he's picked him out, inch perfect. And from our point of view, you could argue, apart from Collins, the rest of them were doing their job. They weren't letting them get near the 18-yarder. They were passing about near the halfway line. It was just unfortunate they've got that quality. Then Mourinho got sent off, 2 red cards in 2 games against West Ham United for that manager. He's got a very poor disciplinary record. He's also had more red cards this season than 16 Premier League teams. So unbelievable start there. Jason, a bit of a Man U onslaught for the rest of the half, though. Were you watching the game between your fingers?
Oh, God, near enough. I mean, as you were saying, when we may have scored a bit too early, I just can't help but think, like, what if we didn't score within those first 90 seconds? I just think it could have been a whole lot worse, really, to be honest, if we were then to go looking for an equaliser from their goal in 20 minutes or so. But yeah, it was a tough watch, and you just got to give Randolph a serious amount of credit for keeping us in that.
Well, half-time, it was 1-1. In the second half, it wasn't much to talk about. There was a disallowed goal for Manchester United, of course. But, Gonzo, are you disappointed we sat back for so long? I mean, in the second half, we didn't really get going until 5-10 minutes before the end. We thought, well, let's try and see if we can really go for it. But I felt in that 10 minutes, we proved that we could take the game to them. I'm just a little bit disappointed that we didn't do that earlier in the game and just really went for Man U. It was almost like we invited them on to us.
I thought we were better in the second half, and not just because 10 minutes, and those 10 minutes were exciting. I did think, hold on, something can happen here. I did think in the second half, I thought Obiang, his tackling, his interceptions were very good. So that he was breaking up a lot of what Pogba was getting through. Pogba was breaking through. A lot of the Man U team were breaking through in the first half. I thought Obiang made a good effort of getting the interceptions, getting the tackles, which sort of broke that up. And then from there, Lanzini was getting the ball, trying to make things happen, and Antonio was getting the ball and trying to make things happen. It was a lot of it was going down that right-hand side. So I think we did try, but I think when we got into that final section, particularly with Antonio down the right, he just lacked that final little bit of craft, that final little bit of guile to do something. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen, to have had more ambition, but I think if we were going to have more ambition, he probably would have gone with Obiang and Lanzini in the middle to start with. I think the team selection he set out his stall, you know.
What do you think, Jason? Are you disappointed, or do you think Bilic approached the second half correctly? Because I am still a little bit disappointed that we sat so far back. And whenever Antonio went forward, he's not very good at crossing anyway. There was no one in the box. Sakho's in the box on his own, and Lanzini and Payet were lining up 20 yards out from the goal, complaining that he was crossing. Well, get in the box. If he's going to cross it, I can't remember how often Antonio's ever cut back and tried to pass it. It's not something I give Antonio as an attribute or a characteristic. He likes to cross it. Whether he's good at it or not, he likes to stick it in the box. But Jason, am I being harsh, or do you agree with Gonzo? Do you think we played well?
Again, it's one of those, like, it's the risk or the reward. I mean, it's like what we had with Chelsea in the cup. We went for the jugular, we got the reward, but at the same time, we could equally as get punished for it. But I know what you mean, but we just needed someone in the box. And again, we're just sort of lacking that sort of predatory instinct. I think we just need a player to pull the trigger at points, especially when the ball is in the box. We saw it many times when we worked it in there, but there's no one seemingly on that final ball. Everyone seems to be sort of clamoring around outside the box to make that late dart in, but by then it's too little too late. So I'm kind of siding a bit more of you on that front there, Gio. I feel as though we may have missed a trick on it.
We'll talk about individual performances in a second, but finish 1-1, Jason. Fair result.
If you offered it beforehand, I would have taken it, to be honest. Old Trafford, in the league, we need points. I'd rather take one than have a hearty performance and leave with nothing.
What about yourself, Gonzo? Do you think 1-1 was fair, or do you think either team could have been a little bit aggrieved that they didn't quite get all 3 points?
I mean, it's a good result for us. It wasn't a fair result. I think Man U probably had twice as many corners, 3 times as many shots. So you could say Man U should have won, and Randolph did fantastically well. We'll do our individual performances in a minute. There were a few other outstanding performances from West Ham players. They were up the other end of the pitch. So, yeah, I would happily take a point. Although at the end, particularly when Fletcher went through, you think, oh, hold on, we're going to get something here. We might sneak a win in the end. But it wasn't to be. But I'm not unhappy. I think if we hadn't have had that surge at the end, I might have been a bit more miserable about it, because I was a little bit more downbeat and sort of picking on players who hadn't played well. But and I wasn't thrilled when Lanzini came off because he's such a skillful, tricky player. But actually, we did. I also thought the substitution was a little bit sentimental. Fletcher, I've got to say, I didn't want Fletcher coming on. I wanted Ayew coming on up front. £20 million. Someone to stick the ball in the back of the net. So I thought it might have been sentimental, but actually, I was quite pleased at the end that we did have a little go.
The first guy I want to talk about, he's coming for a lot of stick on social media. I've seen him during the game, and I was putting out the Twitter thing with the Hammer Chat Twitter account. I noticed a lot of people picking on Mark Noble. They're going, Noble. Now, Jason, what's your thoughts on Mark Noble's performance today?
I feel as though he looked a little out of sorts in the first half, if I'm going to be honest with you there. He did have some lapses where he let them in. I mean, there was one time where he just sort of hooked at the ball and then Man United tried to hit us, try and cut through us. And if it ended up in a goal, then he would have come in for a lot more criticism. He didn't really quite... I mean, he didn't seem to quite last the full game. Instead of Lanzini going off, I would have much rather have seen Noble go off because you could tell by the end he was sort of running on those like last couple of fumes there. But I feel where he has been sort of made of a scapegoat lately, but I thought he had a fairly decent game, albeit barring the lapses in concentration he had down the middle.
Gonzo, same question.
I thought he had a really good last 10 minutes. Funnily enough, he was heavily involved in that little spell that I said I liked in the last 10 minutes. I thought he was neat enough. But when he did lose the ball, and he didn't lose the ball very often, but he lost it big. You know, and they were big schoolboy ones. So it was a bit of a shinner and it was a bit of a scuff, and it sort of led to them having a chance. So I think, I mean, I've not really been on social media. I've just been on the forum and watching it on the telly. But I think if you misplace a little 5-yard pass, for instance, it doesn't really produce an attack by the opposition team, you sort of let it go. So that's why you can get caught up in stats. I think when you could pass the ball at 80, 85% and have quite a good game, but those 3 or 4 passes that you misplace go to someone dangerous. They go to Ibrahimovic or they go to Rashford and then they have a run. You think, oh my goodness, he's given the ball away again. And I think that's probably what happened with Noble today. He gave the ball away in bad situations rather than gave the ball away a lot.
Yeah, I think a couple of times he did, but I think he's coming in for some unfair criticism from some of the ranks a little bit. I am aware that I'm a big Noble fan and I am quite biased, but I went on and had a look at the stats, just did my split screen. I thought, I'm going to watch this while the subs are happening. I'm going to go look at the stats. And people were saying, he's only passing backwards. Well, more than half his passes were going forwards. Payet only did 4 passes going forwards. Now, this was as of the 70th minute. Okay, you're away to say Payet's up the goal. I get that. But the point is, he just seems like the easiest target. Now, I didn't want Noble in the starting lineup today. When we did our preview, I said I would rather use bench and stuck with pretty much the same 11 we played at Spurs, but swap, obviously, Reid for Collins. But I just feel like the knives are out for Noble every time he starts. And like you said, that last 10 minutes, he was the guy who was making everything happen. He was the guy who was linking left to right and forwards to backwards. And at one point, he passed it to Fletcher. Fletcher had someone behind him. He ran into the box, and Fletcher couldn't hold the guy off. Manu broke. Mark Noble literally sprinted past about 5 players. You could see him waving his arms at Payet, etc., saying, get back, everyone get back. And people have been questioning his leadership. And if you just watch that 1 minute, you watch him run from 18-yarder, and bear in mind, this is like the 87th minute of the game. The guy's ran himself in the ground already, but he's running best part of 80-yard sprint while telling his teammates to get back, etc. And I just think he's very harsh. Now, Gonzo, we'll come to you quickly and then we'll move on to another couple of players.
Yeah, I've got to say, I do think he was up against Pogba as well, and Pogba possibly had one of his better games for Manchester United today. And I'd be interested to see in the comments down below on the video and on the forum what people thought of Noble, because there were patches where he was pretty crap today. But I did think at the end, exactly what you say, when he sort of dribbled into the box. He was fantastic, and Noble's likely to do that. Noble is likely to get a lot of criticism and then have a fantastic game in the next 2 or 3 games. So don't write him off. But I would like to have seen Lanzini and Obiang in the middle.
Yeah, let's talk about Fletcher. Jason, you can have the Fletcher one. Were you impressed by him?
Yeah, I thought he came on and looked really lively. He offers us also an aerial threat as well. He's a big lad, and he came off the back of a fairly decent pre-season with us as well. If I recall, he actually looked quite lively. I was really looking forward to seeing him as well. Obviously we have prioritised other strikers over him, and again, there's that sentimental value of bringing him on against his former club. But I don't think he did his chances any harm there, and I'd definitely like to see him get a bit more of a run in the team. He's young, hungry, and I don't want to sort of shoot myself in the foot with saying this, but maybe he could be sort of our Rashford-esque sort of player, looking to hungry and making things happen, perhaps.
Well, we might need him, depends how serious this Sacco injury is, who went off injured, of course. Gonzo, is there any player you thought was poor today? Was there anyone you looked at and was like, you let the team, well, not let the team down. I thought they all played average at worst. I don't think anyone had a stink. Well, maybe one person in particular, but is there anyone that you thought, he didn't have a very good game?
I thought Cresswell was poor. I thought Collins was susceptible to an error. And I don't think Noble had his best game until the end, as we've just discussed. But I think we tried. I think clearly the team are playing for Bilic still, so that is a huge positive. But stinker, I don't know about stinker. We've got a draw at Old Trafford against a Man United team who are improving. I know they've got 4 draws in a row. So I think it was a decent result, particularly bearing in mind we're there in 2 or 3 days as well.
Only Collins can come from criticism for me, I suppose. You talk about Noble giving away poorly. Collins could have cost 2 goals and probably should have cost 2 goals. He did cost 1, but he should have cost another one. Thankfully for checks, covering, etc. I'm going to get the final thoughts of these two in a minute. What they're thinking of going into Wednesday's game at Old Trafford, going into the Arsenal game next week. We'll get a very quick thought from them. But make sure you come back on our channel at Tuesday at noon. We will have the preview of the Cup game where we're saying, do we want to see the same 11? Do we want to rotate it and rest some players and go for the Arsenal game or not? But Jason, what's your final thoughts on the game? Are you happy, Jason?
Yeah, pretty much respect the point, to be honest. I mean, to go, if someone told me beforehand, we'd go into Old Trafford and leave with a point, I'd snap your hand off for that one. Be really happy with that.
Jason, are you seeing it as going to Old Trafford, or are you seeing it as going to Mourinho's home ground?
A little of A and a little of B, if I'm being honest. I know we've never had the best of luck whenever we go to Old Trafford. And again, I think you'll enjoy this stat as well. I did overhear the commentator saying, was it Jonathan Moss was the referee for the game? He's reffed 12 Man United games and they've won 11 and drawn 1. So if we're into the stats, again, fairly respectable to at least not be leaving empty-handed.
Gonzo, happy Gonzo, disappointed Gonzo?
I think I'm quite happy with that. Make no mistake about it. I know people don't want to talk about relegation and everybody thinks we're probably better than relegation, but we are in and around that sort of area. We were just above the relegation zone on goal difference. So now we're just above the relegation zone with an additional point gained at what is traditionally a tough away game. So I've got to be happy.
I'm a happy Gio as well. I'm going to brag a little bit. I said 1-1 in the preview, so I'm a bit happy about that as well. But no, it's a good point. I think most West Ham fans were taking a point before the game. Although it was a good enough performance, actually. I thought a lot of people came off that pitch with a lot of positives. There wasn't much negatives apart from Sacco's injury, I suppose. You could look at that one with a wee bit worried as to see how serious it is. But hopefully it's not too bad. But Jason, last question. Who impressed you today, and you can give a couple of nominations if you like, but who was your overall man of the match? I've got a feeling we're going to have a full house on this one.
It's got to be Safe Hands Rands for me. I thought he kept us in it, just solid as a rock.
Is there anyone else that impressed you though?
Again, like I say, Noble had flashes. Antonio gave Darmian all sorts of problems along the right. It's just a shame we didn't really capitalise that as the game went on. Payet's free kick delivers as always. It was a good all-round team performance minus a couple of glaring errors. I thought it was a solid performance.
Gonzo, the same for yourself? A couple of individuals you'd like to pull out, and who's your overall man of match?
I'll pick out 3. I'll go with Randolph, but then a couple of others that Jason didn't pick out. I'm going to go for Kiate, and in particular Ogbonna, who was very, very good today. And I do think if Reeds had been in the middle, we would have been in a shout of winning that game. I'm gonna go with Ogbonna. He was very mightily impressive today.
You're not giving man match to Randolph?
I just told you I'm giving it to Ogbonna.
Right. Okay. I'm definitely giving it to Randolph. I thought that would have been a straightforward one. But no, I'm going to agree with Gonzo here. I thought our two of our 3 centre backs were fantastic today. Playing against Rashford, even Lingard, even though he comes in for criticism, he's still fast, he's still tricky, he still pulls defenders out of the way. Ibrahimovic likes to go to the back post and open up that space, and I thought we dealt with them as a trio very well, particularly when Pogba's run that. Very impressive performance by West Ham today. But anyway, thank you for joining us. Make sure you come onto our forum at hammerschat.com. Get involved. If you want to see your opinion read by hundreds of West Ham fans, you know where to come. Also, comment below and make sure you subscribe. We'll be back on Tuesday noon with our preview of the Cup game, as we said. And we've also got some details coming out, a massive mega giveaway. And we'll do a quick video on that at some point this week on how you can enter via YouTube. Loads of prizes. The away shirt from this season. We've got tickets to the Hull game, tickets to the Burnley game. We've got books. We've got word art. There's 10, 15 different prizes. We're giving it all away on Saturday before the Arsenal game, and you can get involved. So make sure you keep your eyes on the channel. But Jason, Gonzo, Gio, and we'll see you Tuesday.